man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall, and I guess you just rhyme with Bat Minutes!
Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minutes and Robin. This is the podcast where we would never change the locks on you, dear listener. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And I am your other host, John Parker, and I sure ain't PC.
You can't say that nowadays, John. Come on, for the love of God.
We're going to be cancelled.
Can they cancel a podcast? I guess, yeah, just by not listening to it, I guess we could cancel ourselves.
Well, that's what it boils down to.
They're already doing that.
We were cancelled from minute one. That's the thing with cancelling. I don't want to make this a whole thing, but people like talk about it as if it's a formal process, like paperwork's been filed. It's like, no, all it means is just like people are going, yeah, I don't want to listen to that person anymore.
Yeah,
That's not like
Weirdly though, when that started becoming a very used term, I kept thinking of when we recorded, I think for Batman Returns with Audra, you kept saying cancelled in this sort of very like comical tone. And every time I seen the word people go like, oh, he's cancelled, I would keep hearing it in Audra's voice in my head.
Cancelled!
That was it. That was exactly it.
Oh, Neil Hamburger.
Neil Hamburger's in town.
Cancel it. Neil Hamburger's in town. So, we leave that to you listeners to look up. Cancel it. Neil Hamburger's in town.
Can we obtain this information via YouTube?
Yes.
Possibly, yeah.
If people are wondering who those two voices are, you probably haven't listened to the first 2 minutes of the week, which you probably should have done.
Yeah, it's a bit strange approach.
That is, of course, Audra Wolfmann and Brett Stillo returning for the final time this week.
Returning champions.
Yeah.
And we came back because we love dialogue as small talk. We love that awkward exposition. Oh, by the way, I'm a superhero now. Oh, are you? Yes, I discovered the secret hideout. Oh, how about that? Well, there you go.
I'm here for the witty one-liners.
Yeah, which there are many.
Witty?
No, that's so weird with this minute, because actually, just to get the formalities out of the way, this is minutes 102, and it begins with a bat greeting, and it ends with a mass sleeting. But yeah, it's so weird that, like, a bunch of stuff happens in this minute in, like, the first 10 seconds, and then the rest of it is just, like, all, like, I think the majority of this minute is, like, a close-up of that fucking planetarium. It goes on forever.
Yeah.
Like, at least like 15 seconds of like the 60 is just that planetarium.
Yeah.
It's a good shot, though.
I have a comment about that. But,
yeah. I should actually ask as well, though, Brett, because I just realized in between, because I know, Audra, you're a very vocal Batgirl fan, but I think, Brett, one of your social media handles used to be Batfink as well. Am I mistaken in that, or is that
not Batfink? Although I'm a fan of the Batfink cartoon. If you guys have ever seen that,
yeah, that's the thing. Because in all our years, though, we've never delved into Batfink. So it's like, oh, maybe in the hiatus we should do something about, like, do a few episodes.
I'm up for it
or something.
Let's do it.
Ooh, yeah.
There's some interesting pop culture connections with Batfink and the guys who did the voices for Batfink, and that was definitely a spin-off of Batmania 66, which, aging myself, I am just barely old enough to have experienced that. According to legend, one of my first words at 2 was "Maman."
Wow.
Amazing.
So yeah, for me, he's always been there. And it starts with William Dozier's voice and Adam West's delivery. And I'm not like a huge Batman fan, but he's in some form or another, he's always been around. So I wouldn't call myself I'm a Battist. That's me. I'm a batophile. I don't know.
A weekend batter.
I'm a weekend batter. But yeah, that's kind of my background.
Yes!
Dr. Freeze over here. Dr. Freeze.
You should have worked
Good
with
night,
Arnold.
everybody.
That's my
Yeah. Thank you. Good night.
And I will, between shows, I will, love your show, and I am actively lobbying for you guys to do the Batman 66 movie.
We'll cover it. We'll cover it eventually.
My original pitch to Niall was to do it after this because it's like we can compare and contrast. But then I think Niall, you said, well, it's kind of similar though.
I think it's because because we're going to go into if you go into the Nolan stuff, it's very dark. But this is kind of we went from dark to light. We go to Mask of Phantasm, that's quite dark again. Then you can go to 60 Show because it's quite light, and then you can go into Nolan.
Yeah.
Or we could mix it up and do Batman Begins, then the Batman 60 Show, then the Dark Knight or something. We go crazy. After this, we can do what the hell we want. Technically, when we just started the show, we could do whatever the hell we want because it's podcasting. It's like the Wild West out here. You can just...
It's our show.
You guys are out of control.
Well, at the end of the day, it's our show. It's not yours.
Yes.
And that's people those guys were too out of control. They got canceled. They canceled them.
Cancel!
Cancel them.
Yes.
But anywho, we do get. I feel a bit bad for Robin here because it feels like he thought he had a scoop. Where he's like, I went in and I got information from Ivy, and he's like, oh, he's gonna freeze the whole city, and Batman's like, I know.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he say he's gonna ice the whole city?
Well,
using his hip Dick Grayson slang.
Ice 'em.
But it feels like when someone seeing someone show a meme to someone.
Yeah, this is my experience. Yeah.
And they're just like, I've seen it.
Right, I've seen every meme in the world. Someone literally between episodes has just sent me a meme that I shared an hour ago. But you don't say that. You don't. You just give it a courtesy They've tried. Bless them. They've tried.
Yeah, Batman here should be like, oh, good job. Even if he had heard it, he'd be like, yeah, good job, buddy. Just to give them only just made up from their whole spat. Where it was brother, will you trust me? And now it's just he's back to man, I freaking put on the rubber lips. I put my life on the line. I got the info, and you're just standing there going I was in the corner over there. I heard everything she said. Okay, I know. Just pretend that I did something good. All right.
It's just he just wants to see what those rubber lips do.
He's not Batman here. He's Boardman, and he seems so out of character and self-conscious. I gotta wear the costume again.
Yeah, he kind of looks uncomfortable
because his delivery. Yeah, he looks he's almost. There's one moment he's almost rolling his eyes, and he just. You guys have mentioned, it seemed like it was a pretty happy set. Yeah. But this guy, his overall performance, he seems so lost and miserable. He just at some point, to voice Will Arnett, I've made a terrible mistake.
Now, I was going to say he would be a great Batman, but technically he has been Batman.
Yeah, he was a great Batman. The Lego Batman, one of the best Batman movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the voice of Will Arnett is great, but Will Arnett would probably, in the time frame, he could have played Batman here. But anyway, it's just the contrast and the just the awkward dialogue. Hi, Bruce. It's me, Barbara. If you didn't know.
Oh, I love that. As if she's actually in disguise and not just wearing a tiny mask.
What do you what do you guys think?
True.
Is she
true?
Is this because she's just Bruce? It's me. As if she can't believe it worked. Is Bruce just been Did we think he's actually been fooled?
No, he's playing
by the
along.
disguise?
That's what you do.
So he's doing it to her. He would be like, hey, Freeze is going to ice the city. F you, kid. Oh, who are you, little girl? You're dressed up in a Batgirl outfit?
He's probably at home. He's really checked out, didn't even look at her when she came
he doesn't even know what she looks like.
Just never noticed.
Couldn't describe her to the police if she went missing. I don't know. She's like
he's like any dad in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, and just that whole run of you're not Bat person, Bat woman.
I do like the idea though when at the end of Batman Forever when Dick showed up in the Robin outfit, if Bruce was like, Jesus, who the hell is this? Alfred, we've got an intruder. No, it's Master Dick. Oh, thank God that little domino mask that really threw me off.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that is like in a superhero movie. I mean, I love superhero movies, like you guys love superheroes, but that there is that whole conceit of the tiny mask,
Mm.
and it just completely fools everybody.
Okay, I agree normally. But this is Batman. He's supposed to be the world's greatest detective.
Supposedly, yeah.
Then again,
But,
in these movies, he doesn't do a lot of detecting.
Mm. It could be
Yeah.
that Barbara's not reading the room. His, like, who are you supposed to be is kind of like a, what are you supposed to be dressed up as? Like, he doesn't even need to acknowledge that it's Barbara.
Yeah, he
He's
knows.
like, of course it's you. Like, but then she's just like, oh my God, the costume worked. It's me, Bruce.
Yeah, maybe he just want to disappoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he said, "Oh, hello, Barbara," it's, "Oh, it'll break her heart." She's, no, guess who I am. No,
I've
I
never
don't
seen
know,
you before in my life.
I do love
Yeah.
the fact, too, that the
It-
contrast between movies of, like, Dick Grayson putting himself in the line in Batman Forever, hard cut to Val Kilmer going, what the hell do you think you were doing? Like, raging that this kid
Yeah.
is putting himself in danger. And now the new house guest is a Batgirl, I guess. And he's just like, yeah, fine. It's totally whatever.
He's
Like,
going, well,
Yeah.
it worked out with
Right.
this other kid. I guess it'll be fine.
Or maybe he's just more like, yeah, that I invited Dick Grayson to stay in the house, so I'm liable if something happens to him. But Alfred's niece, that's his problem. Like, so if she
Yeah.
dies, she dies. It ain't got nothing to do with me. Like,
Okay,
But he's almost curmudgeonly. You know, he's like Fred Sanford as Batman. Okay, we'll kill her later. Let's go. Come on, get in the car. You.
I do like it would have been great though if they had a little scene of her going like, Bruce, it's me, and he's just like, Elle McPherson? Like, no, it's me. Like, Gossip Gertie?
Is he guessing everyone?
Knox? Is that you?
That'd be amazing. Selena?
To play the devil's advocate, like when we go out now, I can't recognize anyone in their COVID masks.
That's true.
Like it's completely made me face blind or something.
It's
I
made
totally
me
can't
realize
recognize
that
people.
even though I'm not hard of hearing, I lip read a lot because I now
Oh,
have
yeah,
trouble
yeah.
understanding what people are saying, and I've realized that's why, because I can't see their mouth.
Ah,
Yep.
but
And they're muffled.
Well, that doesn't help. That doesn't help. But
Um,
those lines you mentioned just before, Brett, like he thinks that for some reason her name she's come up with, Batgirl, isn't very PC. He thinks it should be Batperson or Batwoman or whatever. Now, I don't understand his argument here. It's a weird... How is that not PC to say girl?
yeah, I think this is it's going into this idea that girl, because it means younger, it's infantilizing
Yeah.
the character in some way. But the thing is, to me, it's the thing I've only kind of come across recently, because particularly in Ireland, boy girl is a term that's just used like throughout people's lives. Like anyone who's male or identifies as male, boy, girl, anyone who identifies as female. It's not meant to be insulting in any way, shape, or
Well,
form.
I get it.
But
I get it. Like from our in England, at least, like you don't say boy for an adult man, but people often say girl for an adult woman,
Mm.
which is a bit sort of like I'm putting myself above you. But she's chosen this name herself.
Yeah,
It's very
Mm.
different.
and he's being he's being a little snarky and condescending. Like, oh, don't you people,
You
it's kind of like a
feminists.
don't you people. Like, yeah, I don't like. Wouldn't you want to be called like,
It's super insulting. But as a white man, he absolutely gets to make the call.
Sadly.
Yeah. Remember earlier in the movie, Bruce overheard everything Barbara was saying too about like trying to take Alfred away from these horrible rich people, and she got very kind of social justice-y in a weird way of like, I'm going to help this poor little enslaved man away from this bourgeois asshole and stuff.
Yes.
And it could be he's almost like, because he clearly knows it's Barbara, that he's just like, oh, well, that's not very PC. Like, he's kind of mocking her in a way, because, like, you're one of those the Oxbridge student
Oh, I think
activist
that's what
types,
he's
aren't
doing.
you?
He's making fun of her,
Mm.
which is
He could have observed her lingo and been like, what about bat chick? I heard you say that. That's a cool thing that people say.
yeah, radical.
wow.
Uh,
Suddenly, this whole Burt Reynolds angle. This was made in 1971. Hey, bet chick.
I think
Let's go to my
actually
place.
I love
in the
it.
60s show, that character Cliff Robertson played, Shame, who was like a cowboy. Yeah, he was a take on Shane. He used to call Batgirl Bat Chick all the time. So,
Oh,
There
wow.
you go.
Bat chick, it's groovy. It's
yeah.
hip.
Oh, totally her scene, man.
But he comes across to me, maybe I just read into this weird, like one of those guys you see, I especially see him on Facebook comment sections, who go on and on and on about, oh, I thought women wanted equality. But when their argument gets broken down, what it really boils down to is they want to be able to punch a woman in the face.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's every time. Every time. If
it's
you
like
argue with them.
women are getting uppity.
Yeah. Like, well, I thought it was all about equality. I should be able to hit a woman. It's
Go
like,
on,
what?
sorry.
Whoa. You shouldn't be hitting anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Although I felt this kind of thing was dealt with. I didn't watch all of the Supergirl TV show because it was just like most of those, live action televised DC superhero thing, just not for me, unfortunately. But Supergirl I did try, and I remember Callista Flockhart is in that as Cat Grant.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the opening episode because she brands Supergirl, and Kara comes in and is complaining about it. That's belittling who this person is. It should be Superwoman. And I always remember there was a good quote in it that I thought was like, oh, I don't know, maybe this is my perception, so maybe it mightn't go down well with other people. But I think like Callista Flockhart said, well, what's wrong with being a girl? I'm a girl, and I'm your boss, and I'm powerful and hot and smart. If you perceive Supergirl to be anything less than excellent, then you're the problem. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to put it, I think. Like, you see Supergirl, who's someone who's so incredibly, actually just incredible as a being, and she's called Supergirl, and then you think that's demeaning in some way because the word girl is there. That's like, well, that's attached to someone who's excellent, so what's the problem?
I see both sides to that. You should just let people pick their own name.
Yeah.
Girl's
Yeah,
cool,
I agree.
woman's cool.
If you like it, yeah. If it's as long as it's your choice and somebody's not telling you what you should call yourself, and he's wearing a rubber suit with nipples.
That's true.
But this was a thing, though. The whole Batgirl, Batwoman thing had to be addressed in the comics at one point, too, because there originally was a Batwoman way back when, Kathy Kane. And then they had
Kane.
Betty Kane, who was Bat-Girl. And then they both got canceled to make way for the reinvention of the idea of a Batgirl with Barbara Gordon. And then the intervening years, people were going like, why isn't she Batwoman? What happened to Batwoman? Where'd she go? Like, what the hell's going on here? And in 1977, they did have to have a story addressing it. It was called Those Were the Bad Old Days, from the Batman Family, number 10. And basically, it's really weird in that Barbara Gordon at this point is a congresswoman. That was a big thing. We'll talk about that down the line. Barbara Gordon was a congresswoman for a while. She hung up the cape, and Jim Gordon forwards her on her mail, and there's a letter. There's like fan mail for Batgirl, and bizarre scenario. And one of them's just like, why are you going by Batgirl? Like, that's like the name of a sophomore in high school, and you're not that age anymore. Shouldn't you be Batwoman? And she starts thinking, like, there was a Batwoman though. I remember there being a Batwoman. And then coincidentally, she goes to like a carnival owned by Kathy Kane. That's the first time you've seen her in like over 10 years. And there's a whole big fight then with the Cavalier and Killer Moth, of course, Batgirl's original villain. Comes back, and Batwoman dons the cowl again to help Batgirl fight her. And at the end, they just have like a nice little conversation where it's just like, oh, so what's happening, Kathy? Why have you retired as a superhero? And she's like, oh, I'm no spring chicken anymore, even though she's exactly the same age as Bruce Wayne, and he's still Batman. don't get what's happening there. And they're drawn in the comic to look the same age, so it's even weirder. But she then says, I'll leave the crime fighting and the Batwoman name to you. And then Barbara says, it's an honor, Kathy, but I'll stick with being Batgirl. There always has and there always will be one Batwoman. And, believe it, retired or not, it's you. And it's kind of like, that's why she's not, that's why it's Batgirl rather than Batwoman. It's almost as if it's like leaving a little note for the fans to go, stop and asking about it. There it is.
Yeah.
We addressed it, okay?
Yeah, the author's like, get it.
But they did at least, like, yeah, they worked it into the comics at some point. That like, yeah, we have to acknowledge that there was a Batwoman. That's why she's Batgirl. And at this point, though, she wasn't even Batgirl anymore. She was retired. So,
That's amazing. I'm so happy you know all this because I do not. Now I do.
Oh, that's one of my most favorite things to do in this show is going into the research holes of like reading all these old comics to track this stuff down. Speaking of which, though, because this whole concept though of Batman briefly in this movie not knowing who Batgirl is and been like, who are you supposed to be? That is a thing that has been tied into the character for like a long, long time. Because obviously in the 60s show, you guys probably familiar with Adam West didn't know that Barbara Gordon was Batgirl. Only Alfred knew who Batgirl was in a kind of weird twist.
That's right. That was he knew who everybody was, and of course the audience. But
yeah,
and, I mentioned this in episode 100. I liked that dynamic. I'm the new kid. I'm kind of DIY, and I'm a big fan of yours. And he's sort of, it's like she's always disappearing. So, yeah. And for the world's greatest detective, he can't figure out that Batgirl's the daughter of his good friend Jim Gordon. But that's it's the class. It's the classic. Boy, you should have been here, Clark. Superman showed up and saved the day again. How come you're never around, Clark?
Yeah.
I guess I'm just shy.
That's how bad he is. He's so clumsy, he's so silly, he's a terrible reporter. He missed the scoop again. Superman was here.
You've done it, Clark.
But that's the thing, though. So integral was this to the whole concept of Batgirl originally that Batman would know who she was. It was in the Batgirl theme tune. Now, do you guys remember that Batgirl? And we all know that the classic Batman theme. Batgirl had her own theme with lyrics.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
This would be a perfect time for you to cut to the Batgirl theme, which I wish I had my guitar. I would try to strum it, but it's. I think they actually reverse the notes.
Oh.
So it's Batgirl, because it kind of ascends.
I thought it sounded a bit weird. That actually makes total sense that they just revert. Oh, that's actually very clever. Yeah,
I think because Batman is da 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 da. That's kind of a descending rhythm line, and I think they might have just simply reversed it. So da 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 da. And that whole weird I think that it has the line "Whose baby are you, Batgirl?"
Yeah, they got the lyrics here are Batgirl, and where do you come from? Where do you go? Bracket Scott Nigel. What is your scene, baby? We've just got to know. Are you a chick who fell in from outer space, or are you with a tender, loving brace?
What?
Don't know what the hell happened there.
Okay.
But kind of went off the rails. And then whose baby are you, Batgirl?
Why she got to be somebody's baby?
That's the thing. Yeah. It's just like, it sounds
she is
like we're...
the daughter.
Oh, well, baby in that sense, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be great if George Clooney was like, whose baby are you? when he first meets her.
Yeah. Really, he could have done, a total spoken word. Are you from outer space? What's your deal? And just like
do you have a tender, loving brace?
When she drops when she drops through the skylight, she should have said, like, I just fell in from outer space.
That would actually. Would I have taken that over? You're going to be compost.
No.
Yeah. Maybe Ivy could say, "Did you just fall in from outer space or something?" But But yeah, I should also note, though, in other reveals of Batgirl's identity, because in the Batman cartoon mentioned previously, they do what you kind of hope Bruce would do here, where Batgirl first shows up and then goes home, Batman's in her apartment, and he's just like, "What are you doing, Miss Gordon? Like, what the hell? What is this?" He instantly knew it was her straight away, kind of thing. And of course, then in the Batman animated series, a classic one from the 90s, they have a whole thing as the episode Old Wounds. Batman decides, because he's having trouble with Robin, and Dick Grayson is hooked up with Barbara Gordon. Like, they're a couple at this point. He decides, and she comes going like, "What's wrong with Dick?" And he's like, "Okay." And just leads her into the Batcave. Has that classic moment of Alfred seeing her and been like, "Oh my dear Lord. Okay, miss, I confess. I am Batman." The cover for Bruce and stuff.
Oh, nice.
That's a nice moment.
Yeah.
I'm Spartacus.
They also do that great episode, which is Over the Edge, is the one where Batgirl gets attacked by the Scarecrow, gets sprayed with fear gas, and this is set before she knows who Bruce and everybody is, and in that episode she gets killed, and then Jim Gordon discovers her body, and it's like, this is my daughter. Like, I didn't know. And then Batman, he's like, did you know that this was my daughter? And Batman's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I did. And like Jim Gordon goes on a full-on rampage against Batman. The entire police fleet are just descending on him all the time, and he ends up hiring Bane to kill Batman. And the end of the episode, weirdly enough, has Bane lifting up the bat signal and throwing it at Batman, kind of like he did he didn't throw it at Batman, but Bane did lift up the bat signal earlier in the movie. So it is almost, again, like a little bit of like, well, they did it in the movie, so we're doing it in the TV show after. And a kind of weird little bit of kind of sort of continuity. But yeah, Batman finding out Batgirl's identity is actually surprisingly wishy-washy in the comics. Like, it just is sort of a thing that it was sort of understood after a while that he knew. But like, yeah, originally he didn't know. And then I think in February of 1976, there's the Isle of a Thousand Thrills story from Batman Family 3.
It sounds erotic.
And, tragically, I don't think it is, but yeah, it's just Robin and Batgirl are out on an adventure together, and at one point, then, near the end of the episode, he's like, he says like, "Oh, can I call you Congresswoman?" Because at this point, she's a Congresswoman, and she's like a little aghast, and she's like, "Well, only if I can call you Dick." And it's kind of he has a
this is erotic, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I can call you Daddy, but yes, then it's understood that like, oh. Robin knows that she's Barbara Gordon, and she also knows that he's Dick Grayson, and that's the first time it's acknowledged that those two characters know who each other are. And then it's just kind of wishy-washy throughout the rest of history. Like in The Killing Joke, Barbara very clearly knows who Bruce is because Batman's in the hospital, and she's like, Bruce, he was so horrible this time. And then like 2 years later, in an aftermath thing where she's Oracle, she won't know who Batman is. It's like, it's just all over the goddamn place. But
do what suits the story. Who cares?
Yeah, and they did have throughout the comics history, they had big reveals where she said to Jim Gordon a couple of times, and I think the first one she slipped up and called him Dad one night during an adventure, and then like Jim Gordon went home and Barbara was already in bed, but he just, because he's a detective, he's the police commissioner, he noticed that her breathing rate was too high. And he's like, she's not been sleeping. She's clearly Batgirl. And he just was kind of cool with it. Like he was, and then eventually she discovers that an ex-con that Batgirl put away gets out, and there's a guy that Barbara sponsored too, in his rehabilitation. He gets out, and then he ends up like stealing something from a museum, and she gets really disillusioned with the whole idea of like rehabilitation and criminals and stuff, and she's just like, fuck it, goes in to Jim Gordon, is like, I'm Batgirl, and he's just like, yeah, I know, yeah. Like it's and that's all pre-crisis, and then I think in post-crisis it was like 2006 when it was revealed, but she revealed that she was Oracle, and he's like, holy crap, you're Oracle? And then she's like, I was also Batgirl, and he was like, yeah, I knew that. Like he was so Jim Gordon always just kind of knows that Barbara's bad. And he's surprisingly cool with it. He's just like, oh yeah, fuck, whatever, I guess.
Considering that he's supposed to, I know he's not, but he's supposed to at least present the appearance of being against vigilantes and Batman and whatnot.
Well, just knowing how much danger Batman's in, you think his daughter, you'd be like, not a goddamn chance you're doing that. But yeah, it just seems a lot of continuity is Jim Gordon, except for that animated series one, where that's her greatest fear. She got sprayed with the Scarecrow gas, and her greatest fear is that if she were to die, her dad would turn against Batman and stuff. And at the end of that episode,
probably would, to be fair.
Yeah. At the end of that episode, though, she tries to tell him, and it's weirdly like a coming out scene, because she comes in, and she's like, Dad, I have to tell you something, and he's just like, you're under no obligation to tell me all the things about your life if you don't want to, but just know that I love you and I love all of you. And it's like, that's very phrased as if she was going to come out to him.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's what was the intent. It's like, well, it's like a subtext there for anyone.
She kind of is, in a way.
Yeah. And, but yeah, and she just doesn't. She's just like, okay, well, I won't tell you then. And they just sort of are cool with each other. But yeah, that's not, because it comes up in this minute. And the next 30 seconds are all close-ups of that big freezing ray and stuff.
Oh God.
To address the identity reveals of Barbara Gordon throughout Batman history.
Oh no! Now I can bring up how ridiculous the whole design of the planetarium is. You know, it's such a, to me, that is that's another problem I have with this movie. You know, Burton, of course, creates this, you know, fantasy Gotham, and it's, you know, ridiculously tall buildings that are cliff-like. This just seems like a ridiculous extension of that. You know, it's like this, you got the Colossus of Rhodes with a telescope on top, and there's other scenes where you see these, like, you know, monumental statues that, you know, make Mount Rushmore look like junk, and it's just it breaks the illusion. I mean, we know this is comic book hero and everything, but it's just a little too much of, like, no way.
Well, my question is, can you walk around in the head and the torso and the arms? Like, is all that usable space? Or is it just structural?
Oh, see, I thought it was structural, but now I'm fascinated by the idea that you could do that.
No windows, though. That'd be the bummer. You'd just be
You
in
can look
darkness
through the eyeballs.
Yeah.
But like, my question about it is that, was that statue there already, and they decided to build a planetarium on top of it?
Oh.
Or was it especially like we're already going to need a couple million just to build the planetarium, but we need an additional 20 million to build the giant statue underneath?
I think they've added it to the statue. I think the statue's already there.
Oh,
yeah.
Weird.
It would actually, because throughout this whole franchise, we've noted there's always been statues holding things up. So maybe they're like, we might as well put things on top of them, I guess. Like
observatories.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a fun idea, but it's also just, to me, it's kind of a kitchen sink of, observatory and a giant statue, and let's have the eyes blinking. Eat at Joe's.
or it's like a 5-year-old. You know, a 5-year-old's like, and then there's a statue, and it's 1,000 feet tall, and then you can walk into the top of it and look out of its eyeballs.
Yeah, and Mr. Freeze uses the telescope to turn it into a freeze ray cannon with diamonds.
Yes.
Yeah.
That he stole from my mom and dad.
This, in terms of, like, you know, adding a subtext to images, like a bereaved, upset white man using his giant phallic object to make his problem everybody else's problem.
Yeah.
It's quite a statement.
Sounds
you know?
familiar, yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you've probably talked about this at some point in the last 99 minutes, but you know, and Victor Freeze, who is more of a serious and tragic figure, especially in the Bruce Timm and Paul Dini animated series. And, you know, they just he's just another comical character. He has funny one-liners like the one he busts out here, which is, what is it?
Let's kick some ice.
Let's kick some ice. Like,
that
wow.
was the censors were just like, "Ooh, you're cutting it fine there, Joe."
But it's genius.
It's
Love it.
genius. It's genius. Yeah, genius.
Genius in its simplicity.
But that's it's very apparent in this scene here too. He is having a ball. He's having a great. Arnie, the actor, is having a ball, but Victor Freeze, the character, is also enjoying himself way too much. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that's why, despite what I said in the previous minute, like, one of the lines was one of my favorite lines. I think this is my favorite line.
Wow.
Let's kick some ice.
Let's kick
Oh,
some
wow.
ice.
Whole film. Yeah. Number one.
I feel maybe that's why they left it so late in the game. They're like, we could have used this in any scene, but we gotta use it towards the end.
It's
to, like,
gold.
Be
Yeah.
one of the big climactic lines is like, let's kick some ice.
Ah, it's genius.
But that you guys, because what is your take on Arnie? Like, just as a cultural presence, because he is like the the star here. And nowadays Arnie's like, we discovered from we did have someone on earlier in the season who was like, I think she's in like her maybe 19 or 20. I think she is. She's just starting university in America. And we were saying, like, so what is Arnie to you? And she's like, oh, he's just a meme. That's all. That's his career now. He's just the meme.
Oh,
like,
boy.
but you obviously we lived through the height of Arnie. But you guys might even have, you know, what was your perception of him in the 90s when he was a thing? Were you fans, or like what do you think of him?
Oh, man,
the way he's developed over the years?
I can actually take it back to the 70s when I was real little, and he did, and he did Pumping Iron, and that was.
I'm just imagining the little Brett going around like, this honest Schwarzenegger's going to be a
Yeah.
star. I'm telling you.
I love this veiled gay icon. Right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, there was sort of
Pumping
this,
Iron.
yeah, because Pumping, growing up in San Francisco, Pumping Iron comes out, and it's bodybuilders. It has like the gay community has like, it's a fascinating movie. And it's a big hit. I don't know. My parents sort of thought he was a big buffoonish cartoon character. So did you guys ever see The Villain? You probably never even heard
No.
of The Villain. Awful.
I've actually got in my dad's skybox just downstairs. I've got The Villain recorded, and I've not watched it yet. I know it's got like Kirk Douglas, and it's supposed to be dire.
It's
but
I haven't seen it. No.
it's the only thing I can recommend is it has my favorite line by Paul Lynde in anything. Of course, you have to deal with the fact that Paul Lynde is playing an Indian chief. So it's
Cancel.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
the name like Paul Lynde, he is of
Yeah.
course a Native American man.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But it's Hal Needham saying, "Hey, I could make a Roadrunner movie that's 2 hours long. That can't be done." So and in that movie, you kind of see pre-Terminator Schwarzenegger, where he's sort of a buffoonish muscle man, and he's you laugh at him.
Yeah.
And yeah, Terminator was a revelation because it's like, that guy, he's getting good reviews. I'll be back. Hasta la vista, baby. And suddenly it was, for me, it was like, oh, the clown becomes kind of a cool guy now. And and this whole like the trademark one-liners,
I was astounded to find out. Apparently, in '76, he won an Emmy for "Stay Hungry,"
oh yeah,
which was
Stay
like
Hungry,
a thing he did with Jeff Bridges. But it's one of those things that's, I guess, just been brushed under the rug. That like, oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger was like considered to be like a good actor
yeah.
before the '80s.
Yeah,
Somehow
but I mean,
he won an Emmy. It's
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of like Richard Keel or somebody. He was like, hey, we need a big guy in this. Oh, and he's got a funny accent. But then, Terminator overnight. So like, okay, I'm a leading man. And then it's just boom, Raw Deal, Commando, and all of just
Classic.
boom, bada boom, bada boom. And suddenly he's just like an unstoppable force in the box office. And and it was just, for me, going to the movies, it was, I like kind of skinny, wiry heroes, but you had Schwarzenegger and you had Stallone, and suddenly it was all about guys using steroids. Suddenly it's like the huge pectoral muscles.
Well, it was like bringing a touch of WWF to movies, wasn't it? Like a exaggerated sort of.
Yeah, because that is going hand in hand. I mean, because there's Jesse Ventura in Predator, and
Hulk Hogan trying to be an actor.
Absolutely.
He did a few movies.
Yeah. And there's probably a few other dudes we're not remembering, but suddenly, like, I mean, the muscle-bound guy had a sort of a new stature in pop culture in the movies, and I mean, it helped that Arnold had that real wry, I'm going to tell a bad joke now. There's always that,
And he grins while he does it.
It's like, just as an aside, you remember his cameo when he actually appeared in a Hans and Franz skit, and he seemed to be having the time of his life.
Right.
You know, it's like, I mean, you know, whatever you think of Arnold, he just seems to have a goofy sense of humor. You gotta love anybody who can, you know.
Although I'd ask Audrey like your opinion of Arnie, but I imagine like 90s goth, you were probably like, I just watch The Hunger.
Oh, my
That's all
relation.
that's the only.
I mean, yes, I only watched The Hunger. But my relationship to Arnie's a little complicated because my father is from Austria. And so it became kind of a joke that he would like deliver these lines at home. And the movies would be on cable, like Miss Kindergarten Cop?
Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, like
Yeah, that's a genuinely great film.
Yeah, that's a fun movie.
So yeah, he would say these lines, and I mean, he was, you know, Arnie was a joke, basically, because the family is, you know, half Austrian.
Well, apparently his accent is kind of a country bumpkin kind of an accent anyway to Austrians, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right.
Like a
Yeah,
hick.
that's. I think my dad said that once or twice. Yeah, because but the sing-songiness of German that Austrians speak, that's completely right. That is like across the board in Austria.
That's cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun to listen to. That German, but I'll also, and you can edit this out if you want because it's depressing, but it's not depressing. So 2 years ago, I had to go in to get an MRI because I was having so many migraines, and my coworker says to me, "Oh, don't worry, it's not a tumor." And then it turned out I had a brain tumor, and so when I came back to work, she said, "How'd the MRI go?" And I'm like, "I had a tumor." And it's like, how many times in your life do you get a chance like that?
Hell yes. I mean, you know, you've got to find joy in the darkness.
That's correct.
That's the English way, gallows humor.
You have to try to get that story to Arnie. I think he would appreciate that in terms of like, oh my god, they're keeping it alive, yes.
I just want to point out she felt like such a dick.
Well, in her mind, it's probably like, there's no chance it's a tumor.
Oh, totally. You'd never assume. They'd be like, of course, you're going to be fine.
It's a tumor.
Benign tumor, by the way, for your listeners. Benign tumor. And you're doing much better.
Still
now.
got it.
Yeah.
That's a good point bringing that up, though, because we, as you know, people who talk to you, we know that, but the listeners might not know. They might be worried about you.
Yeah. So
oh, it's fine. I have a brain tumor. It's
a benign
fine.
tumor, and
it's just
shrinking.
big.
Yeah.
It's just in the way.
Yeah.
And I had to do radiation, but I'm okay.
Bloody tumors.
Yep. You got to keep going and watching crappy movies. I have many more crappy movies to watch in this lifetime.
It's what keeps the world ticking. As Arnie says in Pumping Iron, you know, it's like having sex with a woman and coming.
God.
Wow. Yeah.
But
you gotta say it like Army.
It's like having sex with a woman and coming.
Nice.
Arnie said that in Pumping Iron because of the gay overtones. He just wanted to.
Yeah, it's like no homo.
Yeah, exactly. Not me. Not me.
He's like, no, I love girls. I
think the greatest villain Arnie ever played was himself in Pumping Iron. Him just looming over, trying to psych out Lou Ferrigno by just being a dick.
The funny thing with Pumping Iron is any other movie like that would be like, okay, Arnold's acting like a jerk, and he gets his comeuppance at the end. Lou wins. No.
Yep.
Arnold just mocks him, belittles him, ridicules him, and Arnold wins. I have one thing I was going to bring up to end off here. That the draft has loads more lines here while he's freezing the city. While he's very slowly freezing the city, can I add? I mean, I'm gonna read it out, but it's.
I was imagine you to stand next to him, like, get on with it, come on,
come on.
How long does it take you to freeze a whole city? Jesus Christ!
Do it.
So he's freezing the city. You can hear police sirens in the background, and he does like a police radio call. He goes, 1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12. See the mad scientist with the freezing ray. And then it says, a squad of cruisers scream up the avenue towards the observatory, their bubble lights flashing. And then he says, cops on the rocks, anyone? And he shoots them with the ray, and it says the cop cars become skidding, screeching cubes of ice. They smash into each other, explode into a pyre of raging flames, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's like, police are so hot-tempered these days. Don't you agree, Mr. Bain? Jesus Christ.
That makes him seem a bit more like you actually see the cop cars blow up. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he's actively killing people. It kind of
Cop
adds
killer.
bit more of a dangerous edge to the whole. But you know what probably happened was that Arnie read all that, but he had his people, and he's like, one line will take care of all of this. All I need is one. And then everyone's like, we bow to you, Arnie. We didn't realize that you knew what you were doing the whole time.
I want to say this. Yes, sir, Mr. Schwarzenegger. Mr. Schwarzenegger wants to say this line. Okay.
You don't argue with Arnold.
No.
Yeah. Here. Anything you want, Arnie. Hey, have a cigar.
Have a blue cigar.
Of course.
Blue
of course.
cigar.
But yeah, though, because obviously Batman and Robin is so reviled by the general public, we are asking the guests if they've got what the worst film they've ever seen is.
Oh, so we're going into hour 2 then. You're opening up a whole can of worms here because, we have movies we hate to love and movies we love to hate. So, it's all subjective. It's the eye of the beholder. I have movies that I think are horrible, but I love. I have movies that are technically great, but I hate. I don't know. You want to start?
The worst movie. Not that we can't love this one, right?
Yeah.
Just the worst movie.
The one that you actively object to, rather than can enjoy because it's crap. Basically.
I'm gonna go with A Night to Dismember.
Oh.
Have you guys seen that one?
No, I don't think so.
It's on YouTube.
It's on. It sure is. It's a. Hate to say this, but it's a Doris Wishman film. She was known for directing a bunch of nudie cuties in the 60s.
Nude on the Moon. I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah, Nude on the Moon. Yeah. So Night to Dismember she was making a movie in the 70s, late 70s, and then most of the footage got ruined in the film lab. So she was left with very little footage, and she still pieced together a movie. It took her 4 years. But she released this in 1983, and it really does seem like the bits and pieces of a garbage movie, just stuck to get like Frankenstein together with a voiceover narrative.
This sounds perfect.
Yeah. I dare you. I dare you to watch this.
Is it Harrison Ford doing the voiceover?
Double dog dare you.
No, I think it might actually be the guy who narrates the TV director's cut of Dune that David Lynch took his name off of.
Oh, the Alan Smithy one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Alan Smithy with where the guy sounds like Buddy Ebsen. House Atreides.
Yeah.
House Harkonnen. Spice. Boy, I could go on and on. I feel like the worst movie. My litmus test, my yardstick is always Samurai Cop.
Yes!
That is the worst in terms of that movie fails on every conceivable level.
Yeah, but
the
that's
why
writing
it's
is bad.
beautiful.
I mean, I love Samurai Cop because it's so bad. But I mean, the sound is bad. The editing is bad. Everything, every aspect of that movie is badly done. Now, granted, it's a low budget thing made in the Hollywood Hills, but yeah, that one is a fail. But it's also like a low budget 80s direct to video cheap ass Lethal Weapon ripoff. With a one of my favorite things is what I call the ESL script. And Troll 2 does this. It's a guy. It's the director and his wife they're Italian, and in the translation, I mean, part of the joy of Troll 2 is some of the weird ass dialogue.
Oh, it's amazing.
And Samurai Cop's like that. If you guys have ever seen Samurai Cop, you've got
Oh, of course.
you've got some weird ass monologuing from a guy who was an Iranian refugee after the revolution in 1979. So I call it the ESL script. There are several other examples of such out there, but then then there's the ones that make me mad, and that's like the big budget Hollywood what the and one that comes to mind. I've got my list, but how about 2004's Van Helsing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I do
that
have
one.
a particular beef against Van Helsing.
Yeah, because that's a movie, that's one where like you kind of know it's dumb, and you're like, yeah, I'll have fun with this, and then it's dumb and it's not fun, and it's just kind of annoying. Yeah, like I wanted
it
to
has
like
like
that movie.
it has the audacity of being from like, oh, it's the guy who made The Mummy, and it's got like Wolverine in it. This is gonna be good, and then it's like, that's not.
Yeah.
My best story with Van Helsing is that my friend Anthony when we were in sixth form, which is kind of like it's just like a later stage of high school, but
Well, it's the last 2 years essentially in America. Isn't it?
and we're in with America would be like study hall where you're just kind of everyone's just sitting around reading and stuff. He brought in like a pirate DVD version of Van Helsing that he got his hands on. He's like, oh yeah, you should watch this. Yeah, you just take the DVD. Yeah, it's fine. And I watched it and I was like, this is the biggest pile of shit I've ever seen. And then I went back the next day and I was like, this was terrible. He's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, well, here you go. And he's like, I don't want it back. Don't fucking give me that. And then
I'm picturing you two pushing it back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like leaving it in his school bag, and then I discovered all of a sudden it was in my blazer pocket somehow.
Wow.
And then we both had an
that.
armistice where we went down to Lifford Bridge, which is the border between the Republic of Ireland and the North of Ireland, and we cast the DVD into the river.
Oh, wow.
Symbolic destruction.
And as we were walking away, we could still see the disc glinting in the sunlight as if it was like, I'll be back.
One of these days it'll wash up at your feet. You're like, oh, it's back. No.
Yeah. That's the Reptilicus inspired horror movie that you're gonna write. That DVD has been festering in the muck for years, and it's like the digital information is filtering down, and you've actually got bad Van Helsing monsters who are forming in the muck, and they're going to come out, and they're going to look for you and your friend, and they're like, Father, we live. And you write that one.
Whoa.
And that could be a really wonderfully terrible movie. So yeah, Audra and I love, the low budget mistakes of something like, have you guys ever seen Spookies?
Oh,
No.
That is a great bad movie.
That's your homework.
Yeah, that's another one. There's
We
your
did watch
Christmas gift.
Ghoulies, if that's in any way similar.
Yay! Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ghoulies 2?
Yeah, not
two?
Ghoulies 2. It was I think it was one night. I just remember John was around. I was like, let's put on Ghoulies.
Yeah, wasn't
And
it
then
midway
midway-
one? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think midway through, we were
yeah.
just like, oh, this is actually like really terrible. So.
Ghoulies is
Aw.
Ghoulies is kind of trashy fun, but compared to Spookies, it makes Ghoulies seem like The Exorcist. And because Spookies it's Spookies, just try that out. But then there's the big budget, written by a committee. So many of them in the 2000s, just these big lumbering dumb movies.
They're written by an algorithm, basically.
Yeah, written by an algorithm.
That wouldn't surprise me if that was literally true.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
it's kind of becoming that. Yeah.
Did you see that on YouTube? If you look up, movie written by robot, have you seen that?
I haven't seen it on YouTube, no.
It's frightening.
It's a short. I mean, it's only, like 10 minutes long, but it's amazing that a robot program just wrote a movie about people and how it gets people so wrong.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
But what's frightening is if you think, okay, they'll take this software and they'll keep, working on it. And in about 5 years, that's how Fast and Furious movies will be written.
Yeah.
And Transformers movies, it'll just be like a program wrote it.
Yeah. But I suppose Samurai Cop might have been your answer for the next question, Brett. But like the next one would be if there's a movie that's regarded as being terrible that you personally will defend to the death. But,
at Samurai Cop in a pinch, I will sail down the river. But one that I will stand by as a great, actually kind of a great zero budget movie is one we might want to talk about someday. Have you guys ever seen Rat Fink, a Boo Boo?
No.
No.
Ray Dennis Steckler, 1966.
There's a superhero you can get behind.
And it is a Batman parody made on a zero budget, improvisational. It is literally like Ray Dennis Steckler was a low budget, do whatever I have to filmmaker trying to make a buck in Hollywood. Did a lot of porn later in his career, and he had free 16 millimeter film stock and some friends, and they were just getting together on the weekends and shooting this thing, and they had varying accounts how much money they actually had for the costumes. But they go to a Sears Roebuck and get some ski masks and long underwear, and let's talk about that one sometime. Rat Pink.
That does sound like a hiatus episode in the making, right there.
I think it's very much a hiatus episode. It's about 60 minutes long.
I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
Audra, do you have one you'd like to put forward?
Yeah, so many. I think to balance things out, I'm going to go with another Doris Wishman film, which we mentioned earlier. Nude on the Moon. I mean, I will stand up for any female director, especially one that was active in the late 50s, early 60s, and was doing nudie pictures,
That's a rarity, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Nude on the Moon's made in 1961, and it's basically about this planet, the moon, where aliens are naked. They're the topless aliens all the time. And she shot this in Florida at this place called Coral Castle. Is kind of an interesting man-made, what would you say, like obsessive art project. It's just like a castle basically carved out of coral, huge coral pieces.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there might be a plot in there.
Yeah.
But who cares?
Yeah, we don't need that.
No.
Yeah. Also, like Nude on the Moon is one of those movies that, it's low budget exploitation, but they had some really high quality 16 millimeter color film stock, and the whoever was doing the camera work, it was Doris herself. It's like really sharp, so it's like, wow, this is the best topless home movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. Topless aliens, and it's a great movie to like have on your screen during a party.
Yeah.
So turn the volume down, turn up whatever music you're going to have.
Yeah.
It's like great wallpaper.
As I recall, in some parts of the United States were probably a little more uptight. Wasn't it marketed as a educational health film?
Maybe. She did some nudist colony movies as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was this is like it wasn't even porn yet. It was like, oh yeah, we can see nude women, but decency laws being far more strict. It was like, oh no, this is a health movie. This promotes fitness.
Oh, that's fine then. That's fine.
Yeah. Because what do you do when you're nude on the moon? You play catch.
Of course.
Yeah, there's some sports in there.
Yeah.
There's no sex.
Yeah.
They're just nude on the moon.
It's
I find it sexier that there's no sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a
Gotta
pageant.
save something for the sequel,
Yeah.
I guess, really.
And everybody. Yeah.
Sex on the moon.
Let's make a sequel in 2022. Come on.
Neuter on the moon.
Like Doris is still going. It's like, yeah.
Can you imagine? No.
Oh.
Unfortunately,
There's
no.
so many more topless films to make.
We can create a spiritual sequel.
Oh, nice.
If you want to hear about more wonderful bad movies, I mean, where can the listeners hear about that?
Oh, for instance, my podcast.
Oh, yes, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Speakeasily versus the 80s. You can find it on all the podcast places, all the usual pod places. And find us on Facebook at Speakeasily Podcast. Or Speakeasily Show. We're Speakeasily Show. And then my other podcast, Retrophilia, we're doing the 90s this season, and we're covering quite a number of dour 90s movies.
The 90s is a lot worse than you probably remember, people.
Yeah.
In many ways.
It's way worse than I remembered.
Thanks for putting us up. We had a lovely week.
Yeah,
here.
we love your house.
Yeah.
Sorry I don't have an actual spare bed and you had to just sleep on the floor. But
It's fine.
You
We're
might
used to
appreciate
it.
the fact, though, that it is carved out of coral. I mean, that is,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
that's the upside.
Much like the Coral Castle.
And there's the strict no clothes rule.
Wow. You know, once you cross that threshold, once you come through that front door, it's all coming off.
That's right. Not just the shoes, but yeah.
I want to see everything. So if you want to see everything about this show, go onto the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave on Facebook, where you get all the updates, all the posts, all the memes, all the silly nonsense from stupid fans. And I'm just loving calling everyone stupid this week. No, we love the fans. We love the fans. And Twitter, Instagram, you know, just look up Bat-Minute or the Bat-Minute on Instagram. And head over to the Sleepy Jolly Media TeePublic, where you can buy T-shirts and mugs and you know, just all kinds of fun merch. And join us again on Monday. We'll be back with new episodes and new guests. See you then, Batmites.
Next time, I'd say things go from niceberg to iceberg, but Gotham was never that nice. A certifiably frosty felon is freezing landmass in a flash with a ray, and it seems the city has entered its own end of days. But as this popsicle-powered predator literally petrifies the proletariat, can the bourgeois bat fam intercept in their swanky souped-up chariots? It's Jingle All the Sleigh on Monday, Batmites. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.
back.